Sometimes a movie comes together so wonderfully odd and funny that it defies its low box office gross and becomes an iconic comedy of the early aughts. Zoolander was one of those movies that found a new life on home video. It's one of those movies that you would share with friends and family so you could all have a laugh together. I actually saw it on DVD when it first came out, not in theaters. I feel like that's the story for most fans of this film. It was also part of the epic rise of Ben Stiller as a comedy superstar. He was coming off of two huge hits with There's Something About Mary and Meet the Parents. People were becoming more aware of his fresh and awkward style of comedy, and when Zoolander came out, it clicked for people. Just not in theaters. However, after one cartoon project and a sequel 16 years too late, the novelty had worn off. If you're a fan of this film, send a blast of blue steel at the subscribe button. It's totally free and it's right there in the computer. So sit back, relax, grab an orange mocha frappuccino, and let's dive into the really ridiculously good-looking story of the Zoolander franchise. In 1996, Ben Stiller made a short film for the VH1 Fashion Awards that featured a brand new character named Derek Zoolander, a model that made up for his lack of brains with sheer unadulterated confidence in himself. The very next year, Zoolander emerged in his second short film for the award ceremony, this time in the form of an ad for the Derek Zoolander University of Modeling for Men. In 2001, after years of development hell, a feature film debuted. Obviously, Stiller reprises his role as Zoolander here, but originally he was supposed to play a dual role as Maury Ballstein. That role eventually went to his father, Jerry. In fact, it was like a family affair during this shoot. His mother, Anne, had a small role as a protester in the beginning of the movie. His sister, Amy Stiller, was part of Hansel's posse. And finally, his brother-in-law, Mitch Winston, played the director of the commercial at the end of the movie. The role of Matilda went out to actors like Kate Hudson and Sarah Jessica Parker. When those offers didn't move forward, Ben Stiller decided to reach out to his wife for the part. In an interview with Esquire magazine in 2021, Stiller's wife, Christine Taylor, talks about getting the part. I remember getting a call from Ben one day saying, "So what do you think about playing Matilda? Paramount loves you and you did the Brady Bunch movie for Paramount and they would love for you to do it." You see, after losing out on the part of Stiller's love interest, Pam, in Meet the Parents, Taylor decided to intentionally avoid auditioning for the part of Matilda. I guess to avoid any more uncomfortable vibes at home with her husband. Luckily, she took the offer. I love that she and Ben have done so many movies and shows together. They did Dodgeball, Arrested Development, Zoolander 1 and 2, and Tropic Thunder. Owen Wilson was the first and only choice for the role of Hansel. However, he had a busy schedule, so as an emergency backup plan, they held extra auditions for the part. Jake Gyllenhaal apparently auditioned for the role and gave a more wild-eyed interpretation of the character. Of course, once Owen Wilson confirmed his availability, he donned the golden locks of Hansel, which, by the way, was a wig. He was filming the movie Behind Enemy Lines at the time, so he had to wear one for the part of Hansel. I legitimately couldn't tell, could you? At this point, Wilson and Stiller had appeared together in 3 movies: The Cable Guy, Permanent Midnight, and Meet the Parents. They would go on to do 9 more movies together as of this video. As for the role of Mugatu, that was written with Andy Dick in mind. Dick was busy doing a show called Go Fish at the time and instead played the small role of this weird masseuse. Once Will Ferrell took on the role of Mugatu, he actually dyed his hair platinum blonde and styled it like Mugatu does in the movie. No wig needed. During this time, Will Ferrell was on the cusp of becoming one of comedy's most popular acts just 2 years later in 2003. He would be starring in Old School and Elf, followed in 2004 with Anchorman and many more huge hits. Casting Mila Jovovich was a great way of bridging the worlds of fashion and acting together. Jovovich plays Mugatu's henchwoman, Katinka Inga Bogovinana, something like that. Katinka Inga Bogovinana. She made waves in 1997 for her role in The Fifth Element and the year after Zoolander with the first of 6 Resident Evil films. However, she started out as a fashion model, so this was a no-brainer casting move. There are too many cameos in this movie to name here, but I'll just point at the one that stood out to me the most when I rewatched it recently. Donald Trump. One of the many cameos he's made in movies and TV over the years before becoming president. However, my favorite appearance in the film was by David Duchovny, with his role as ex-hand model J.P. Pruitt. He plays it extremely straight, like he's in a 70s political thriller. The part where he explains why male models have been chosen to carry out political assassinations, and Derek asks,
"But why male models?"
for the second time in a row, that was actually a mess up on Stiller's part. He forgot what his line was, so he just repeated the same one from earlier. So without missing a beat, Duchovny replied,
"You serious? I just told you that a moment ago."
Duchovny got the part because he saw that his wife at the time, Tia Leone, had gotten an offer to be in the movie. By the way, she never ended up being in Zoolander, but Duchovny had his agents call Ben Stiller and tell him that he wanted to be in the movie. So Stiller offered him 3 roles to choose from. One playing his brother, one as J.P. Pruitt, and another one that Duchovny can't remember. Ultimately, he decided it would be the most fun to play J.P. Pruitt.
You freaking idiot!
It was also his idea to play Pruitt as a schlubby, balding character. And David Duchovny, he's an underrated comedy gem, you know? Here's how the DVD describes Zoolander 1. Clear the runway for Derek Zoolander, VH1's 3-time Male Model of the Year. His face falls when hippie chic Hansel scooters in to steal this year's award. The evil fashion guru Mugatu seizes the opportunity to turn Derek into a killing machine. It's a well-designed conspiracy, and only with the help of Hansel and a few well-chosen accessories like Matilda can Derek make the world safe for male models everywhere. A big plot element of this movie is that Derek has 3 famous looks: La Tigra, Blue Steel, Ferrari, and one that doesn't get unleashed until the final battle in the movie, Magnum. Blue Steel was inspired by that thing that guys do in the mirror when combing or styling their hair. We sort of try to look like Sean Connery in a James Bond movie. You know, you furrow your brow and tense your jaw and lips. You know what I'm talking about, guys? Well, Ben Stiller was doing that in the mirror in front of his wife one day, and she was like, "Why are you making that face?" And so, Blue Steel was born. On the DVD commentary, I learned that there was an alternate ending to the movie where Zoolander has a much different destiny.
Originally, it was going to be a big chase through the subway tunnels, and Derek's dad and the brothers were going to show up and help him get through the tunnels using their mining ability. And a train was going to come, and Derek was almost going to be almost get hit by the train, and then use the Magnum look to stop the train.
Yes.
And then at one point, it was going to stop the train, and then we were going to have it that the train didn't stop, and it just ran Derek over. Because in reality, how could a look stop a train? And then Derek was going to go to heaven, and he'd be there, and there was going to be a big musical number in heaven. And our producer said that would never fly. So
I think this movie works so well because everyone was having a good time with it. You really sense the chemistry between Stiller, Wilson, and Taylor. The bloopers are infectious, and it gives a peek into how fun it was to make.
And then you made fun of me in front of, and you always, you came in with all your cool looking friends and made fun of me. And then you came in with all your cool looking.
the truck is gone.
Just read the lines.
No, you're sitting there with Billy Zane. No. And then you
In fact, just to bring up my boy David Duchovny again, he was just coming off of his long-running hit show X-Files, so he was used to delivering long expositional pages of dialogue on a routine basis. And while his co-workers on Zoolander were messing up lines left and right, Duchovny was nailing his dialogue. In an article by Vanity Fair, Duchovny talks about how messing up a line gave relief to his scene partners in Zoolander. I remember we ran the scene a lot. It was a real long walk and talk, and I had the bulk of the dialogue. It was very exposition heavy, and I remember after a number of takes, I f***ed it up, and both Ben and Christine go, "Finally!" When Zoolander came out, it wasn't a hit. It made $60 million worldwide against a budget of $28 million. It was the 55th highest grossing movie overall in the year 2001.
50! Yeah, 50! Woo!
Well, it's 55, but yeah. A reason that's been associated with the low box office numbers was the timing of its release. September 11th was fresh on everyone's minds. Zoolander debuted on September 28th. In fact, as the director of Zoolander, Ben Stiller had a tough decision to make in regard to his cut of the movie after the Twin Towers came crashing down. Keep shots of New York with the Twin Towers in it, or erase it from the skyline to remove any association with this tragic event. Stiller ultimately decided to erase all shots of the Twin Towers in the movie. His reasoning makes sense in retrospect. Basically, he said audiences don't want to be reminded of such a tragic event. They want to laugh and be transported to somewhere funny. Weirdly enough, in 2006, the Oliver Stone movie World Trade Center featured a Zoolander billboard as an ominous shadow of a plane approaches the World Trade Center buildings. The real magic took place when Zoolander was released on home video. You gotta remember, this was only a few years after DVDs were unleashed on the public in 1997. It wasn't unusual for movies to take off after its initial theatrical release was over. You could pause, skip to your favorite chapter, watch gag reels, all while at a sleepover or friendly get-together. You didn't even have to sneak snacks into the theater. Once the movie found a second life on home video, it was time to figure out how to continue the Zoolander saga. Instead of a live-action sequel, a Zoolander cartoon was completed in 2011. However, they didn't make it into a long, cohesive narrative. It was really just short episodes that had a new storyline each time. They're more like these fake PSAs for kids, only Derek Zoolander is in charge of it. It took inspiration from the 80s Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic that I love so much. Unlike most cartoon iterations of their live-action counterparts, this one had the main cast returning to voice their original roles from the movie. Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Christine Taylor, and Jerry Stiller all graced this show with their voices. I had no idea that this thing existed in 2011, but that's understandable because it wasn't released until 2016 when the live-action sequel debuted. It's like the makers weren't proud of it and locked it away in jail until they could dump it on Netflix during the sequel's release. I couldn't find the show anywhere online except some clips on YouTube. I actually got a month-long subscription on Netflix so I could give it a proper review, but it disappeared from the platform long before I realized that. What's also interesting about this series is that it was put into an 87-minute standalone movie instead of being released episodically, which is how it was made. Having said that, I'd still like to see the full show whenever it becomes available again. My wife and I skipped the sequel when it came out in 2016. It honestly felt like it had been too long between the first and second film. All the goodwill and excitement had drained away over the years. We finally decided to sit down and give it a chance. Movie watching position on.
No, that's the. Oh. Well, I have a lumbar support.
Lumbar. Oh.
My old face. Oh.
The movie starts with a chase sequence.
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber gets cornered and gunned down for a very long time. They're still going.
I know. I thought he was gonna sing.
Then in his last moments, the Biebs takes a selfie with the blue steel look. And after struggling to find the perfect filter, he sends it out to the internet. This sequence was perfectly Zoolander worthy. The rest of the movie, well, the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good crashes into the ocean, killing Derek's wife Matilda and injuring Hansel. This forces Zoolander to lose custody of his son.
Is he wearing the same thing? They're wearing the thing that I have. I have that outfit.
And the two models end up living in seclusion. Billy Zane convinces the two ex-fashion icons to get out of hiding and back into the modeling world, even though it's very different from how it used to be. Fashion Interpol, led by Valentina Valencia, tracks them down and recruits
Derek Zoolander.
and Hansel for their help with a pop star-centric murder case. Along the way, they reunite with Zoolander's son, and he's the total opposite of his dad. Together, they uncover a sinister conspiracy where a chosen one will be sacrificed so the fashion elite can remain young and beautiful forever. It turns out Zoolander Jr. is the chosen one set to be sacrificed. Apparently, he's a direct descendant of not Adam, not Eve, but Steve, an unknown third entity in the famous Bible story. I don't know, it's kind of stupid.
What am I watching?
Don't you feel like in the theater it was probably quiet a lot?
Oh, I bet.
Hey, Katie. Yeah, it's like, when will we find out who we really are?
It's like they didn't know how to be current, so they're like, well, just put Katy Perry in there, I guess.
It's a mess.
Anyway, Mugatu shows up late in the movie where we find him in fashion prison. Derek demonstrates just how dumb he really is by accidentally helping Mugatu escape from jail.
Which means you will let me go. So I'll do it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I mean, we've laughed a few times, so I thought maybe we wouldn't laugh at all. That has happened before.
You're right, as we've lowered the bar so much that we laughed a couple times, so it's all right.
It's ridiculous, but there were some pretty funny moments with Will Ferrell here. The end goes down very similarly to the first Zoolander. There's a showdown and they keep repeating gags from the first movie.
Like this one?
It's so funny I got to laugh. It's not good. I'm not gonna put those in. I have self-respect.
Do you?
They stop the ultimate threat with just a look. And Bob's your uncle.
That's all. He's still so hot right now.
I like the confetti, though.
It's hot up here.
It is. Yeah, I think we should just unceremoniously end it.
Zoolander 2 has sequelitis written all over it. There were too many reused jokes, the plot was too complicated and dense. I felt my eyes glaze over as Derek and Hansel mope around for a big chunk of the movie trying to get their mojo back. There were laughs, but they were few and far between. It's not like they didn't have the time to make a great sequel here. I mean, am I wrong? Is 15 years not enough time? I also thought that killing Matilda's character off hurt the movie. It seemed wasteful and a little mean-spirited. I mean, you're just gonna throw away her character like that? I mean, she shows up as a ghost, but it's so pointless. In the first movie, Matilda was like a surrogate for the audience. Her character acknowledges how stupid the models around her behave. In the sequel, it's almost like no one acknowledges just how dumb Derek and Hansel are. They do, but not enough, you know? It just seems like too much unchecked stupidness in this sequel. Zoolander 2 came out in 2016 and flopped hard. It made $56 million at the box office against a budget of $50 million. The love for Zoolander was gone. After Zoolander number 2 came and went, it made Ben Stiller take a good, hard look at his career. He was surprised that the movie flopped because for years it seemed like there was a lot of demand for a follow-up to the first Zoolander movie. He talks a little bit about this on David Duchovny's podcast, Fail Better.
That was like a really shocking one to me because that was like later in life. And I was also like, okay, well, I thought everybody wanted to see this movie. And then I was like, wow, I must have really f***ed this up that like everybody didn't go to it and it's gotten like these horrible reviews. Yeah. I didn't know it was that bad. That's what scared me the most on that one was like, wait a minute, I'm losing like what I think, what's funny.
He also said that if the movie hadn't flopped, he'd probably still be going hard on comedies just like it. Instead, the failure led Stiller to take on more dramatic work as a director on shows like Escape at Dannemora and Apple TV's Severance.
Over the course of like the next like 9 or 10 months, I was able to develop this limited series, Escape at Dannemora, that I don't think would have happened if I had gotten distracted with something else. For me, that was really transformative because it was the first time I was ever directing something that I wasn't in, and I was so happy doing it.
In 2023, 7 years after the failure of Zoolander 2, the iconic character surfaced once again in one of the most popular formats you can muster in today's society, a Super Bowl ad. Zoolander recently got a new wind of appreciation after multiple clips of the first movie started going viral on TikTok. You know, meme style. Lightning in a bottle is rare. If you try to open that bottle up again, trying to catch another bolt of destiny, you'll probably end up with an empty bottle that should have been left alone. Luckily, we'll always have the first Zoolander film. Unfortunately, the rest of the franchise will only get mentioned in the you-googly. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Scotty Dunn, and if you enjoyed this video as much as Billy did, then here's another one. Listen to your friend Billy Zane.
He's a cool dude.
See you next time.